Today, we're going to add trees to our winter aurora landscape. Before you add trees, though, you'll want to make sure your whole landscape is complete. You should have enough auroras that go all the way to the edge of your mountain lines. In this example that I was working on, I've got some at the top, but before I add my trees, I need to add probably 2 or 3 more layers of auroras. You should also make sure the reflecting water surface is very complete and filled in, so finishing with chalk is the first thing you would need to do. When you're ready to paint your trees, we'll be using a small paintbrush, some black tempera paint, and water. I've zoomed in so you can see the paint. I want to talk about how to get the paint. First, you're going to need to gently drop a few drops of water on the top of the paint to activate it. So I'm just using my water container and touching the water, and touching the paint, and touching the water, and touching the paint. That's how I'll get the paint started. Then I want to smooth the water over the top of the tempera cake, and then I can pull it towards me to pick up the paint. I never want to smash the brush forwards. I always want to pull it gently towards me so that I don't tangle the brushes and I keep the paintbrush looking nice and neat. When we're painting trees, we want to paint sort of a cone shape that's smaller at the top and wider at the bottom. So I like to paint a line for the tree trunk first, and then you can do branches different ways. Maybe you want to do branches that kind of come out in little diagonal lines, sort of like this drawing. I made the little images just so you could sort of see the shapes that I'm making with my brush as I'm painting. Or this one, we kind of just go straight across. So again, I'm going to start with a tree trunk. If I need more paint, I can go to the water first to wet my brush, because the key is having enough water. And then I can pull smoothly towards me to pick up the black paint. And then this time, I'm just going to kind of feather across. So I'm just really lightly, barely touching. And I think this empty negative space actually makes it look more like a tree, because it sort of represents the individual branches in the tree. So these are just 2 ways you could make a tree. You could make trees differently if you want to. It's okay if they don't look like mine. Art is about trying new things and taking chances. So when I think I'm ready, I might add some to my example from before, even though we talked about how it's not really finished. We're going to pretend it's finished so I can show you adding trees on the artwork itself. So I'm going to take my paint. Should I ever smash the brush? No, instead I want to pull the brush towards me and just gently slide it across the top of the paint. And then I'll make the tree trunk. There's really no right or wrong way to make their trees, and they can be as big or as small as you want them to be. Now the other thing, though, is we have this body of water that reflects the auroras and should also reflect our trees. So I'm going to add sort of the opposite, a little bit less. So like if this triangle points to the top of the paper, the reflection is going to point to the bottom of the paper, where I have my trees, just so it shows the reflection below too. I'm really excited to see your aurora pictures and how you finish them. When you're all the way done, then what you can work on is writing about your artwork like we have been doing. I'll show you that paper really briefly as well. Again, I want to add my reflection. It's okay if the reflection is done in a different style. Maybe this time I'm adding small little dashed lines. And I would keep painting trees all the way across, however many I want, maybe some big, some little. I think variety can make it more interesting. When it's all finished, it'll go on the drying rack so that it can dry all the way. And we will write about our artworks. At the top, you would put your name, today's date, and you can answer these questions, or you can just write about your artwork. If you're in 4th grade, you should write at least 4 full lines or 4 full sentences. There's more room on the back. You can, of course, write more than that. But it's a good practice to talk about explaining our ideas and the process, and that can help us remember the skills we've learned even longer than if we didn't do the writing. I'm excited to see your painting and your writing today.